one of the many states. The companies which are owned by the union government or any one of the many states or territorial governments, that is UTs, or both, right? So these PSUs, they can be owned by central government or state government or both, right? So we have both central PSU and we have state PSU, है ना? So each of the state have their own PSUs in different sectors, and similarly the central government has also its own public sector undertakings, right? Now, how do we decide that the company is a government company? It's a central PSU. So if the government has at least 50% shareholding in the company, that is majority shareholding, in that case it is called PSU, right? So basically PSU is a company. It is a company which is registered under Companies Act, right? It is registered under Companies Act. Earlier there was Companies Act of 1956, and now we have Companies Act 2013, which has replaced the Companies Act 1956. So it is a company, and in this company either the union government or the state government or both together, they have 50%, more than 50%, more than 50% shareholding, right? So why we have kept this criteria of 50%? Because if government is having the more than 50% shareholding, then the government can take any decision in this company. Majority of the voice will be from the side of government. Operational decision, managerial decision, business related decision, decisions regarding human resources, all decisions can be taken by the government. So the government has the majority shareholding. So this is more than 50%, right? So even if the government has one extra share from the 50%, it automatically becomes majority shareholder, right? So not 51%, it is more than 50%, at least more than 50%, 50 plus, 50% plus. So if only and only central government has this shareholding, then this is central PSU. If only and only the state has this, then this is state PSU, right? So example of central PSU is, for example, we have NTPC Limited, ONGC, Indian Oil Corporation, lots of companies. In every state there are electricity distribution companies. For example, in Uttar Pradesh we have Paschimachal Vidyut Vitran Nigam Limited. Similarly, in every state there are companies which are working in different sectors, maybe in the sector of health, in the sector of sugar industry, and so on. And there are certain PSUs where both central government and state government have the shareholding, and the one such example is Delhi Metro, DMRC. So in the Delhi Metro, both the government of Delhi as well as the union government, both the government have the shareholding. Right. Now coming back, so PSUs may be classified as central PSUs, state PSUs, and apart from that we also have the public sector banks, right? So public sector banks are also part of the central PSUs only. They are also part of the central PSUs, right? So for example, State Bank of India, etc. But because their nature of business is altogether different and their regulation is altogether different, that is why they are classified separately. Otherwise the condition is same. The condition of minimum 50%, more than 50% shareholding is there. So that condition is there. If government do not have 50% shareholding, then it is not a public sector bank. For a CPSC, the direct holding of central government or other CPSC, this is also important. So either holding of the central government or holding of the other CPSC, right? So for example, very recently there was a transaction between power finance companies. So there are two companies. One is Power Finance Corporation, and this is a real example. I am not giving the hypothetical example. One is Power Finance Corporation, another is Rural Electricity Corporation. Both are the central government companies. Earlier, central government was holding the shares in both the companies. Suppose 70% in this company and 70% in this company. Now central government sold all its shares in the REC and these shares were purchased by the PFC. These shares are purchased by the PFC. Now because PFC is also the central government company, it is also a central PSU, and this central PSU is having majority holding in the REC, right? So this REC is also central PSU, right? So earlier central government was having direct holding in the REC, so then also it was central PSU. Now it is not the central government but one of the central PSU which is holding the majority holding in the REC, which is holding the majority shares in the REC. So now also this is central PSU, right? So majority shareholding of the central government directly or through any other central PSU indirectly, both are possible. Both are possible. Now you will ask a question, sir, why the government is selling its shares in the REC to the PFC? Why central government is not holding the shares directly into the REC? So by selling the shares in the REC to the PFC, the central government actually got the cash without losing the control over the REC, है ना? So in case, so basically this REC was one of the disinvestment from the side of central government, right? So REC was part of the disinvestment program. मतलब सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट को आरईसी में अपने शेयर्स को सेल करना ही था. अगर उसको ओपन मार्केट में सेल करते तो आरईसी के ऊपर से गवर्नमेंट का कंट्रोल खत्म हो जाता. तो गवर्नमेंट ने क्या किया, इसने एक अपनी कंपनी को बोला कि भाई आप इसमें जो मैं शेयर सेल कर रहा हूं ये आप शेयर खरीद लो, ठीक है, ये आप शेयर खरीद लो. तो अगर आप ये शेयर खरीद लोगे तो मुझे पैसा मिल जाएगा और कंट्रोल जो है वो भी हमारे पास ही रहेगा, है ना. सो दिस इज ऑल्सो वन पार्ट, वन काइंड ऑफ होल्डरशिप विच इज पॉसिबल इन द सेंट्रल पीएसयूज, ठीक है. नाउ दिस पीएसयूज they are administered by the Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises, right? So when we say central government means what? Central government means what? So basically for every PSU there are twofold regulation
from सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, है ना. तो व्हेन वी से सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट हैज डिसाइडेड दिस, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने ये कर दिया, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने, सो हु इज सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट? इज द प्राइम मिनिस्टर और समवन एल्स? सो बेसिकली there is twofold regulation over the central PSUs. One is through the Ministry of Heavy Industries, and another is through the administrative ministries of respective PSU, है ना. So this Ministry of Heavy Industries, and inside this there is one DIPP, which I will tell you later, one of the department. So they are having the overall control over all the central PSUs, है ना. What should be the performance target of the PSU, how much shareholding the government should have in a central PSU, how many shares should be sold to the public. All those decisions are taken by Department of Heavy Industries, and rest of the decisions which are regarding the business. For example, if we talk about IRCTC, so IRCTC is in the railway sector, so Ministry of Railway is the administrative ministry. So business related decision will be taken with the help of railway. For example, if we talk about NTPC is in the power sector, so Ministry of Power is the administrative ministry of this PSU. For example, if we talk about Indian Oil Corporation, right, so Ministry of Oil and Natural Gas, Ministry of Energy basically is the relevant administrative ministry, right. So business related regulation is done by the administrative ministry, and otherwise on behalf of the central government, the shareholding, all those decisions, those are taken by the Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises, right. Ministry of Heavy Industries and the Public Enterprises. So they are administered by the Ministry of Heavy Industries and the Public Enterprises. Now, in order to provide, so basically if we talk about PSUs, let us discuss the context, why we established the PSUs. So if we go back to the time of independence, at the time of independence, we adopted democratic socialism, right. So what is democratic socialism? The concept I will I will discuss in the planning chapter, but as of now just understand that in the democratic socialism we are basically adopting the concept of mixed economy along with the major control of public sector, है ना. Now what is the meaning of mixed economy? Mixed economy means economy where both the public sector and private sector they work together, है ना. So public sector has a the benefit of public sector is that it takes care of the equality. It does not differentiate between the people based upon their paying capacity. So it ensures the social welfare. And the benefit of private sector is that it brings efficiency. It rewards productivity. So we adopted a combination of both efficiency and productivity along with welfareism and the equality, right. We adopted the mixed economy and we gave the major control to the public sector. Why we gave the major share to the public sector? Because first of all, private sector was incapable at that time. at the time of independence, private sector was not capable enough to invest huge amount in the economy. There were only few companies. Secondly, we also wanted to ensure the welfare of masses, and the welfare of masses was possible only and only when we can give the control of economy in the public sector. If we give the control of economy in the public sector, it can create jobs, it can go to the backward areas and create infrastructure there. It can provide the job to the SC/ST, right? It can sell the goods and services at controlled price. So basically, it can take care of all the social welfare objective along with doing the business, right? So private sector was incapable and welfare of masses was required. Therefore, we gave the major control of public sector. We gave the major control of economy to the public sector, right? So there were various regulations. Industrial Policy Resolution of 1948, Industrial Policy Resolution of 1956, which gave the predominant role to the public sector, and the control over private sector was ensured through the mechanism like license system, etc. But till 1991, these PSUs started facing many kind of problem, right? What kind of problem? The problem like political interference. So all the decisions will be taken by the ministers, even if the decision is not viable commercially. For example, if some power plant has to be established, it requires certain preconditions in the particular area. So there should be some water, there should be easier availability of the coal, it should be blessed with the sufficient manpower. So only if these conditions are satisfied, any power plant can be successful, otherwise not. But even if these conditions are not satisfied, one of the Prime Minister ordered that the power plant should be established in its own constituency in the state of Uttar Pradesh, and that power plant failed finally, right? So this kind of political interference was there. Then there was high control of bureaucracy, right? So immediately after independence, this bureaucracy got the major control over the governance, right? They are good in the administration, but PSUs are the business entities. The IAS officers can be good in the administration of general nature. They are generalistic officer. They are not the specialist officer. So if we talk about power sector, in power sector, which kind of technology should be used, all those things should be decided by the professional, not by the generalistic person. But because of dominance of IAS officers, this bureaucratic system was there. It dominated the PSUs also, and the PSUs started facing losses. Apart from that, there were high social obligations, right? So every PSU has to give some job security. They have to provide the goods and services at low cost. They have to cater to the unviable businesses also. So because of all these interferences, all these issues, till 1991, majority of the PSUs, they came into losses. So they started facing huge losses, right? So at this point of time, the government came up with various reforms in the PSU sector. Reforms as part of the liberalization, privatization and globalization strategy, right? liberalization, privatization and globalization strategy, right? So as part of this strategy, the government announced two major reforms. One was the grant of managerial and financial autonomy to the PSUs, and another was selling the stakes in the PSU. That is disinvestment, right? So one was that it granted managerial and financial autonomy to the existing PSUs, and it also started selling the stakes in some of the non-profitable PSUs or non-important PSUs, non-profitable or non-important PSUs, right? So they were the two major reforms. Now coming to the first reform, that is financial and managerial autonomy, was provided to the prestigious PSUs, and they were called Navratnas. So in 1997, for the first time, the government of India, it came up with the concept of Navratnas. That is, it identified top 9 central PSUs which should be granted autonomy so that they can perform their business without any political and bureaucratic interference, right? So to grant this autonomy, there were two things. First of all, how to identify, like which company should be given the autonomy, and second was that how much autonomy. First was how to identify that which company should be given the autonomy, and second was that how much autonomy should be given. How much autonomy should be given, right? So for this purpose, all the companies were categorized into 4 different categories. One is Mini Ratnas, Mini Ratna category 1 and Mini Ratna category 2. Second is Navratnas, and third is Maharatnas. This Maharatna category was introduced in 2010. So to start with, how to identify that which company is Mini Ratna category 1, right? So for this there were different criteria. So first of all, it should have positive net worth. Positive net worth means the total value of its assets should be more than the total value of its obligations, right? The total value of its assets should be more than the total value of its obligations. So it should have the positive net worth. Second, it should be profit making since last 3 years, है ना? तो जो अच्छी कंपनीज हैं हम उनको सिलेक्ट कर रहे हैं. It should be profit making in last 3 years. And third criteria was that in any one of the financial year during last 3 years, there should be the profit of at least 30 crore rupees. So this company should have earned a profit of 30 crore rupees in any one of the last 3 years. If all these conditions are satisfied, then this company can make the investment of 300 crore or equal to its net worth 300 crore or equal to its net worth without any government approval. मतलब 300 करोड़ रुपए या इसकी नेटवर्थ जिसमें से जो भी लोअर हो, है ना, अगर इसकी नेटवर्थ if the net worth is only 150 crore then maximum amount is 150 crore. If the net worth is suppose 500 crore then maximum amount is 300 crore, right? So lower of 300 crore or net worth, this amount can be invested in any project. This amount can be invested in any project without the approval of the central government. That means the management of the company can take its own decision. The management of the company can freely decide that where to invest the money. The interference of the politician and the bureaucracy will not be there. This is the one category. Another category is Miniratna 2. Here this condition is applicable, this condition is also applicable, and this third condition is not applicable, right? Here instead of 300 crore this limit is 150 crore, and instead of net worth this is 50% of the net worth, whichever is lower. So if any company is falling in the Miniratna category 2, then it can make the investment of 150 crore rupees or 50% of its net worth without any government approval, without the approval of the central government. So these are the two categories. Coming to the third category, that is Navratna category. So how to identify which company is Navratna? First of all, it should be in the Miniratna category 1. Secondly, it should have got at least 3 times excellent or very good rating from the ministry, right? मतलब 3 बार इसकी परफॉर्मेंस बहुत अच्छी होनी चाहिए, एक्सीलेंट होनी चाहिए या फिर वेरी गुड होनी चाहिए. It should have 60 out of 100 score on a certain criteria which I will tell you after some time, है ना? And in the last it should have at least 4 independent directors. If all these conditions are satisfied, then this company can invest up to rupees 1000 crore in one project, right? 1000 crore or 15% of net worth, right, in one project, and in total overall in all the project this can be 30% of the net worth. Friends, you might be thinking, sir, do we need to remember all these figures? So my answer is, try to revise 3-4 times. In the examination they may not ask exact figure, exact numerical value, but they can ask some conceptual statement based upon that. Based upon these numerical values, you can solve those conceptual statement also. So you should be conceptually clear. You can see that Miniratna category have the less autonomy, Navratna category have the more autonomy, and Maharatna category they will have the highest autonomy, right? So from low autonomy to the high autonomy. So this kind of conceptual clarity you must have. Now coming to the Maharatna category, how to identify that this is a Maharatna company? So first of all, this company should be a Navratna company, plus this company should be listed in the stock exchange, plus this company should be having global presence, and in the last 3 years average annual turnover should be 25,000 crore, net worth should be at least 15,000 crore, and net profit should be at least 5,000 crore, right? This means these are very, very big size companies, big size, whose average annual turnover in the last 3 years is 25,000 crore, net worth is 15,000 crore, or net profit is 5 crore, right? And how much autonomy? So 5,000 crore or 15% in the one project, and in all the project 30% of the net worth. Right? So this is how different categories of the Maharatna, Navaratna, Miniratna were identified, and the criteria for identification and how much autonomy should be given to them, this was clarified through the policy of Maharatna, policy of Navaratna, and policy of Miniratna. Right? The details of all these details I have given in the handout. If this concept is clear, then you can clearly understand all the things which have been given in the handout very easy. Let us now cover from the handout the same thing. First of all, the policy of Miniratna. So you can see over here that they should have made the profit for the last 3 years continuously, and they should have earned the pre-tax profit. Pre-tax profit means the profit before paying the taxes of 30 crore rupees in at least one of the last 3 years, and they should have a positive net worth, है ना. अगर ऐसा होता है तो they will have the financial autonomy to incur capital expenditure without government approval, है ना. तो in this case they do not need any kind of government approval up to 300 crore rupees or equal to net worth, whichever is lower, है ना. And who awards this status? This is important for the prelims. The Department of Public Enterprises under the Ministry of Heavy Enterprises and the Public Enterprises, है ना. तो मैंने आपको बताया था, I already told you in this slide that every ministry has twofold regulation. One is by the Ministry of Heavy Industries. So Ministry of Heavy Industries, Department of Public Enterprise, DIPE, है ना. This is not DIPP, this is DIPE, है ना. And another is Administrative Ministry. So this department grants the status of Ratna, है ना. This department grants the status of Ratna. Next we have category 2. So all the discussion that I did is written over here. You can read yourself also. I have discussed everything. Now as of January 2020, in India we have 62 category 1 and 12 category 2 Miniratna. Then policy of yes.
DIPP sir, heavy industry DIP, Department of Promotion and
DIP is DIP, Department of Public Enterprises, under the Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises. So this is different from the Department of, this is different from the DIPPP, which is under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. दोनों अलग अलग हैं. हाँ, the Department of Promotion of Internal Industry and Internal Trade, है ना. The Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, that is in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, right? And this is Department of Public Enterprises under the Ministry of Heavy Industries and the Public Enterprises, right? तो यहाँ पे नाम भी पता चल रहा है, Ministry of Heavy Enterprise and Public Enterprise, है ना. जो Heavy Enterprise है यानी कि जो big companies हैं, और जो Public Enterprise है यानी कि जो public companies हैं, है ना. Very good question, Manish, है ना. Because many time you will get this confusion, so you should know the difference between two. Even this question can come in the prelims. They can ask which department belongs to which ministry, है ना. So you should be clear. Now coming to the policy of Navaratna. So I told you in the policy of Navaratna, first it should be in the category of Miniratna category 1. So when I am saying it should have this status means पहले उस कंपनी को मिनिरत्ना कैटेगरी 1 ऑलरेडी मिल चुका है ना. अब ये कंपनी नवरत्ना बनना चाहती है, ठीक है ना. तो नवरत्ना बनने के लिए मिनिरत्ना कैटेगरी 1 होना जरूरी है. उसके साथ साथ और भी क्राइटेरिया हैं जिसमें इट शुड हैव एटलीस्ट 3 एक्सीलेंट और वेरी गुड MOU rating. What is this MOU? So basically every ministry signs one memorandum of understanding. That's a kind of informal agreement that you should achieve certain parameter in terms of turnover, in terms of profit, right? And if at the end of the year the company is able to achieve those target, then it gets excellent or very good status, है ना? So basically it reflects how much performing the PSU is, कि PSU कितनी performing है ये बताता है, ठीक है ना? तो the CPU must have Minetna category 1 a status along with the schedule A listing. It should have at least 3 excellent or very good MOU. It must obtain a composite score of 60 out of 100 based on its performance during last 3 years, and the score is based on 6 parameter. 6 parameter कौन कौन से होंगे? So these parameter include number 1 manpower cost to cost of production, है ना? So manpower cost should be minimized, है ना? तो manpower cost की बात की गई है. Then gross margin of capital employed, कि आपने जो कैपिटल एम्प्लॉयड हुई है उसमें कुछ ना कुछ यू शुड अर्न मिनिमम ग्रोस मार्जिन. देन यू शुड अर्न सम ग्रोस प्रॉफिट ऑन सम टर्नओवर, एंड यू शुड बी अर्निंग सम डिविडेंड पर शेयर. सो अर्निंग पर शेयर बेसिकली मीन्स द प्रॉफिट पर शेयर, है ना? एंड इंटरसेक्टोरल कंपैरिजन बेस्ड ऑन नेट प्रॉफिट टू नेट वर्थ, है ना? तो in the same sector, for example, if we talk about oil sector, so in the oil sector, how much is your net profit and how much is your net worth? So depending upon that, this is criteria. So these are the 6 parameter. Based upon these 6 parameter, the first parameter was net profit to net worth. Based upon these 6 parameter, if any company is able to get the score of 60 out of 100, then this condition is satisfied. And lastly, the CPSE should have 4 independent director. अगर ऐसा होता है तो इसको it will have the power to invest 15% of its net worth in a single project, but maximum 1000 crore rupees, or maximum in all the projects 30% of the total net worth of that PSE. So now, as of January 2020, so this data, all this data I have taken from the economic survey. Following 14 CPSE have achieved the Navna status. So there are total 14 CPSE. आपको नाम याद रखने की जरूरत नहीं है. You are not supposed to remember the name of these companies, है ना? But you can see REC and PSC, जिनके मैंने आपको एग्जांपल दिए थे. REC ये है और PFC ये है. Both are now central PSU, right? Policy of Maharatna, all these I have discussed already, all these parameters. Now this is about the performance of CPSUs in the last 1 year. So these are some facts. You can read them, right? So this is about the chapter of PSU. If you have any question, you can ask me. First of all, what is the need of disinvestment? What is the meaning of disinvestment? है ना? So what is the meaning of disinvestment? It simply means when the government sells its shareholding in any PSU. अगर सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट या कोई भी गवर्नमेंट अपनी शेयर होल्डिंग को सेल करती है तो उसको बोलते हैं डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट. दिस इज कॉल्ड डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट. एंड देयर आर 2 कैटेगरीज: ordinary disinvestment and strategic disinvestment, है ना? So this ordinary disinvestment, it can be, for example, sale of the 5% shareholding, sale of the suppose 20% shareholding, and so on. So any percentage of shareholding is possible, right? But here there is no transfer of management control, right? There is no transfer of management control. Strategic disinvestment means that there must be transfer of management control. So this transfer of management control is the differentiating feature between the two. In case of strategic disinvestment, most of the time more than 50% shareholding is sold, है ना? So normally only so normally 50% or more than 50% shareholding is transferred, and after that only the management control is transferred, है ना? But it is quite possible that even if 50% shareholding is not transferred, still it can be a strategic disinvestment because the management control has been transferred, है ना? So what is the key condition? The key condition is transfer of the management control. So transfer of the management control is the key condition to be called as the strategic disinvestment. Then if we see the PSUs can also be of two categories. One is strategic PSUs and then there are other PSUs, right? So strategic PSUs and other PSUs. Strategic PSUs means those PSUs which are working in the strategic areas which are very strategically important for the country. For example, defense, for example suppose this railway, for example nuclear energy, right? So defense, railway, nuclear energy, so all of these are the possible strategic areas, and the PSUs which are working in these strategic areas, they are called strategic PSUs. So हमने बात की कि डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट क्या होता है. अब डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट की जरूरत क्या पड़ी? Why we need the disinvestment? We have already seen so why this disinvestment is required, we have already seen in the chapter of central PSU that in what context these PSUs were established. So these PSUs were established in the context of India being a mixed economy with the major control of public sector, and private sector was incapable and welfare of masses was required, right? And because of various problems like political interference, bureaucratic problem, high social obligation, PSUs came under huge losses. So we started various kind of reform, and one reform was that we provided the Ratna status, and other reform was that we started disinvestment in the PSUs, right? So this was result of the reforms which were started in 1991 after the liberalization, privatization and globalization. And what are the purposes? The purposes of disinvestment are infuse the professional management versus the bureaucratic system. So when government will sell its shares in any PSU, then other professional management experts, they can become the head of the PSUs, right? So when the shares will be available with the public will demand the transparency in the operations of the business. It will demand that professional management should be there to operate the business of the PSU, right? So wider ownership comprising of government, general public and the private sector it will also increase the accountability of the management of the company, and they will be obliged to take the decision which are commercially viable rather than which are politically interfered. It will depoliticize the essential services. For example, oil and natural gas, power sector, these are essential services and they should be running on the business principles rather than political principles. They will enhance the financial discipline and reduce the subsidy burden. So because of the huge PSU losses, ultimately the government has to come to rescue of the PSUs. It has to compensate the PSUs for the losses, and it increased the subsidy burden of the government and led to the fiscal deficit. So through the disinvestment, the fiscal deficit can also come down. It will increase the competition, because when the shares will be available with the general public also, they will compare the disinvested company with the other companies, and there will be more competition, because now the government protection is no longer there, because the government will no longer protect the company. So there will be more competition. It will provide the autonomy in the form of Navratna, Maharatna, Miniratna. And very important that it is considered that private sector is now much more capable as compared to 1947, when private sector was not that much capable. Now private sector is very much capable. So we should give more power to the private sector, right? So it will enable the government to focus on social objectives like education, like health, like business values, rather than the business values, right? So the government should focus on the education, health, housing, basic infrastructure, rather than going into the pure business. This is also one of the principles of disinvestment, right? So these are the purposes why disinvestment has been pursued. And now, what is the policy of disinvestment? What is the policy of disinvestment? So after 1991, there have been multiple policies of disinvestment. But if we consider the policy of present time, it has its roots since 2009. It has its roots since 2009. So we have been following this new policy since 2009, right? So you can see disinvestment policy 2009. What are the principles of this policy, right? What are the principles of this policy? Number one, the public enterprises are the assets of public, right? Therefore public ownership should be increased, है ना? तो अभी जो ओनरशिप है वो किसकी है? गवर्नमेंट की है. हम कह रहे हैं कि जनरल पब्लिक के पास ये ओनरशिप चली जाए कंपनी की, यानी कि जो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट है वो शेयर्स को जनरल पब्लिक में सेल कर दे, है ना? तो पब्लिक ओनरशिप शुड बी इंक्रीज्ड. नंबर टू, सो पब्लिक जनरल पब्लिक या इंडिविजुअल को कैसे देंगे? तो मिनिमम 20% ऑफ द सेल ऑफ द शेयर्स इट शुड बी रिजर्व्ड फॉर द रिटेल इन्वेस्टर. तो रिटेल इन्वेस्टर मतलब द इन्वेस्टर हु आर इन्वेस्टिंग अप टू 2 लाख रुपीज, है ना? फॉर दोज पीपल एटलीस्ट 20% ऑफ शेयर शुड बी रिजर्व्ड, है ना? सो व्हाट विल बी द बेनिफिट? द बेनिफिट विल बी दैट more and more people will be interested to invest into such kind of in companies, and it will also increase the participation of common man into the capital markets. So it will deepen the capital market. That is also one of the purpose. Next, third one is retaining the majority shareholding of 51% and management control in the strategically important sectors, है ना? तो मैंने आपको बताया था कि so I already told you that they can be
not audible, sir.
So I already told you that they can be two kind of PSU. One is ordinary and another is one is working in the strategic area and another is working in other areas, है ना? So here we should retain the majority shareholding in the strategically important sectors, and we can go for strategic disinvestment of identified PSUs with more than 50% 50% इक्विटी सेल एंड साइमल्टेनियस ट्रांसफर ऑफ मैनेजमेंट कंट्रोल, है ना। तो कुछ आइडेंटिफाइड पीएसयूज की हम लोग स्ट्रेटेजिक डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट करेंगे, है ना। तो फॉर एग्जांपल एयर इंडिया हो गया आपका, है ना। तो इस तरह से स्ट्रेटेजिक डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट की बात भी फर्स्ट टाइम 2009 में बोली गई, है ना। बजट 2016-17 में फर्स्ट टाइम एक मेजर रिफॉर्म आया, है ना। तो इफ वी सी टिल till 16-17 our focus was on the disinvestment, means just sell the shares, बस बात ये थी कि आप शेयर सेल करते रहो, है ना। इन द बजट 16-17 for the first time we came up with the approach of investment management approach. What is the meaning of this? So before 16-17 we were interested in just selling the shares. Now in the new approach we are saying that central government holding in the CPSUs, this is an investment, so we should try to manage this investment in a way which can provide us maximum value, rather than like we should not look only for sale but also selling in a manner that it can achieve other objectives also. For example, it can increase the participation of general public. For example, not only that we will sell the shares to the general public, but we can also sell our shares to some other PSU. So the example that I gave, that central government sold its shares in the REC to the PFC, right? So that kind of transactions are possible. तो अभी जो पर्पस है वो है कि हमें मैनेज करना है अपने इन्वेस्टमेंट को इन द बेस्ट पॉसिबल मैनर. सो जस्ट लाइक ए normal investor manages its investment, similarly central government will also manage its investment as if it is a normal investment. So the focus is not just upon disinvestment, the focus is in managing the investment in the best possible manner. So we will manage and we will try to increase the efficiency of the PSU. We will try to increase the efficiency of the PSU, है ना. So this was the major reform in the disinvestment area which was introduced by the budget 2016-17, है ना. So this is called investment management approach or investment based approach in the management of disinvestment. So in the budget 16-17 the government moved from disinvestment based approach to investment based approach to enhance the efficiency of the PSU and finally earning the profit, है ना. तो गवर्नमेंट कह रही है कि हमें सिर्फ सेल करके पैसा नहीं कमाना, अगर हम PSU की एफिशिएंसी इंक्रीज कर देंगे तो प्रॉफिट विल आल्सो इंक्रीज. सो दैट इज आल्सो वन वे ऑफ अर्निंग द मनी. एंड दिस इज आल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट द डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट वाज ट्रांसफर्ड और renamed as the Department of Investment and Public Asset Management. And this Department of Investment and Public Asset Management, this is under the Ministry of Finance. Now investment based approach. So the current government is pursuing disinvestment, not to vacate the public sector. Please be careful, please read this very carefully, this is very important. Not to vacate the public sector but to enhance its efficiency. अब इसकी efficiency को enhance करने के लिए, ठीक है. The new disinvestment mantra is to minimize the interference, allow PSU to function along commercial principles, grant managerial autonomy in decision making, है ना. And Department of Investment and Public Asset Management or DPAM is under the Ministry of Finance. The aim is to manage the center's investment, and mandate is advising the government in the matter of financial restructuring of CPSU, attracting investment through capital market, and addressing the issues like capital restructuring, dividend, bonus. So all the internal issues of the PSUs which are with respect to disinvestment, this will be managing all those issues also. Now these are various targets of disinvestment. For example, in 1819 the target was 80 lakh crore rupees, but actually we exceeded the target. In 1920 it was 105 crore, and as of now, till January, this collection was 65,000 crore. For 2021, the budget has kept the target of 210 lakh crore. Now, then it is the meaning of strategic disinvestment. So here the crucial point is sale of substantial portion and along with the transfer of management control. So what is important is transfer of management control. On the contrary, in case of ordinary disinvestment, management or control will be retained with the government. But in case of strategic disinvestment, the management control must be transferred. And who will identify which PSU will be disinvested? So Niti Aayog will identify which CPSU will be disinvested. Now what are the instruments? Now let us see different financial instruments which are used by the DPAM to achieve the objectives of disinvestment. The first one is IPO. So in case of IPO, for example, we take the example of IRCTC, Indian Railway Catering and Tourism Corporation Limited. So this was unlisted company. Unlisted means this was not listed on the stock exchange, right? So when for the first time it issued its shares to the public, to the capital market, first time issue of shares, so this is called IPO, right? So this can be one way of disinvestment, that central government had 100% shares in IRCTC. Now other people are also joining in the IRCTC through capital market, so the share of the central government will come down and it will be disinvestment. So this is one way. Another way can be, suppose there is one company called NTPC. In the NTPC, the government has 80% shareholding. Now government is saying to the NTPC that please issue. So like this NTPC is a listed company. This is a listed company. Means it is already on the stock exchange. It already did its IPO earlier. Now NTPC will issue new shares. And when it will issue new shares, the shareholding of the government will come down. So this is called FPO, follow on public offer, FPO. So this is another mechanism of the disinvestment, right? So IPO in case of unlisted company, for example IRCTC, FPO in case of listed company, for example NTPC. Third is offer for sale. Offer for sale, this is done by the promoters through the stock exchange mechanism. So for example, there is third example. For example, we take the example of say Power Finance Corporation, PFC Limited. So government is having its shares of 80% in the PFC. Now it is going into the stock market and selling its shares, and like it is selling its 10% shares in the stock market. Open stock market में सेल कर रही है, कोई भी, anyone can buy. Anyone can buy, है ना? So this can be one of the way. So this is called offer for sale, है ना? And as I said, anyone can buy. So the employees of PFC can also buy, है ना? So employee of PFC, they are given some discount on the sale price. Suppose PFC लिमिटेड का जो शेयर 10% सेल कर रहे हैं, नॉर्मल जो प्राइस है वो 100 रुपीज है ओपन मार्केट में, और एम्प्लॉइज ऑफ पीएफसी है उनके लिए बोला कि आपके लिए ये शेयर 95 रुपीज का है. तो एम्प्लॉइज ऑफ पीएफसी कैन ऑल्सो पार्टिसिपेट एंड दे कैन ऑल्सो बाय द शेयर्स. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड एम्प्लॉइज ऑफर फॉर सेल, है ना, एम्प्लॉइज को हमने अपना शेयर्स को सेल कर दिया, तो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने जो कंपनी के शेयर्स थे वो कंपनी के एम्प्लॉय को शेयर कर दिए, सेल कर दिए, है ना। बायबैक ऑफ शेयर्स, बायबैक मतलब बाइंग बैक इट्स ओन शेयर्स। स्ट्रेटेजिक डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट वी हैव ऑलरेडी डिस्कस्ड। इंस्टीट्यूशनल प्लेसमेंट, सो ओनली फ्यू इंस्टीट्यूशंस दे buy the shares, for example LIC and other big institutions. ETF I have already discussed very clearly. In case of ETF, what will happen? So this is the central ETF, this is the central government has 80% shares in suppose Indian Oil Corporation. So it will sell suppose 5% shares, and this ETF it can buy. So this can be one of the way, right? So ETF, disinvestment through ETF route allows simultaneous sale of GOI stake in various undertakings across diverse sectors through single offering. तो normally क्या होता है कि like there is a group of 11 CPSEs. So the shares in all the 11 CPSEs they are sold simultaneously as a block, है ना। तो what government will do? Suppose government says that I will sell 2% shares in each of the 11 CPSEs. So I will sell 2% shares in each of the 11 CPSEs, right? So this block sale is held in case of ETF. ETF के लिए केस में block sale आपकी होती है. So these are the various mechanisms, है ना. Now central government operates two ETF, CPSE ETF, Bharat 22 ETF. We already discussed in the CPSE ETF we have 11 CPSE stock. In the Bharat 22 we have 16 CPSE stock, and we have ITC, L&T and Axis Bank. So Axis Bank is also there, L&T is also there, and this is through the SUTI. Yesterday we discussed about the SUTI, है ना. तो वन मोर स्टॉक इज देयर दैट इज L&T. तो वो कल जो हमने लिस्ट पढ़ी थी उसमें शायद मिस हो गया था हमसे. देयर आर टू मोर ETF. वन इज भारत बॉन्ड विच वी डिस्कस्ड इन द मनी मार्केट ऑलरेडी, एंड वन मोर ETF is coming, that is financial sector ETF, right? So those that ETF is basically invest into the financial sector shares. For example, shares of insurance company, for example shares of the public sector bank, etc. Out of the above 8 disinvestment routes, maximum disinvestment proceeds are collected through ETFs only, है ना. तो मैक्सिमम कहाँ से पैसा आ रहा है? ETF से आ रहा है. और ये पैसा जाता कहाँ पे है? Where does this money of disinvestment go? So disinvestment proceed collected are credited to the National Investment Fund. So they go to the National Investment Fund, and this is part of the public account, है ना. So in the public finance we discussed Consolidated Fund of India, public account, and Contingency Fund of India. So this is part of the public account. This fund remains in NIF until withdrawn or invested for approved purposes. तो जब ये जो नेशनल इन्वेस्टमेंट फंड है, जब तक कि इसको निकाला ना जाए तब तक ये कहाँ पे रहेगा? NIF में ही रहेगा पैसा, जब तक कि इसे अप्रूव्ड पर्पस के लिए ना निकाला जाए, है ना. और allocations will be decided as per the annual government budget. So this is about the NIF. So there can be a separate question on the NIF also. There can be a question on like which of these instruments are used for the disinvestment. There can be a question on the strategic disinvestment, that whether this is the strategic disinvestment or not. There can be a question on the DPAM, that what are the functions of DPAM, and there can be a question on the objectives of the disinvestment, right? So there can be these different type of questions. Now in the budget 2021, which was introduced in the month of February 2020, the government of India has decided to sell its stake in the LIC for the first time through IPO. So LIC is an unlisted corporation. Government has 100% shares. So government will sell some of its shares, and LIC will go for the IPO, and it will sell balance holding in the IDBI bank also, which LIC will buy. Then this is UPSC previous year question. Please read this question and solve this question. So what is the answer to this question? Anyone?
Should be A,
One
sir.
only.
Should be A.
A. Okay.
A, sir.
Okay. Anyone else? So answer is basically D, neither one nor two. आप लोगों ने ये कैसे बता दिया भाई? मैंने कब बोला कि इस जो गवर्नमेंट का पर्पस है वो एक्सटर्नल डेट को रीपे करने का है? When did I say? So why is the government of India disinvesting its equity? Number one, the government intends to use revenue earned from the disinvestment mainly to pay back the external debt. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, मैंने कभी नहीं बोला. मैंने तो यहाँ पे I already told you what are the purpose of disinvestment. I never told you that we have to pay the external debt, है ना? Yeah, this money can be used, but the intention is not that we will use this money for that only. Are you getting? अगर स्टेटमेंट में लिखा होता the government can use the proceeds of disinvestment for external debt. Yes, it can use. इसका पैसा वो कैसे भी यूज करे, बट इंटेंशन ऐसे नहीं है कि डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट हम एक्सटर्नल डेट को रीपे करने के लिए कर रहे हैं. ठीक है ना, ऐसा पर्पस नहीं है हमारा मेन. और सेकंड तो गलती है, द गवर्नमेंट नो लॉन्गर इंटेंड्स टू रिटेन द मैनेजमेंट कंट्रोल. ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है, है ना. इट इज नोवेयर लाइक दैट. सो basically purpose we have already seen. These are the purposes of the disinvestment. You can go through once again. To infuse the professional management, wider ownership will attract the accountability, depoliticization of the essential services, decrease the subsidy burden, competition, autonomy, and government can focus on the social objectives like education, health rather than just business, right? So these are the objectives. So basically this disinvestment is a very comprehensive topic. There is a debate whether disinvestment should happen, how much disinvestment, is it really beneficial, will it not harm interest of the country in the long term. All those questions are asked and that's a mains issue basically. जो mains का हमारा GS3 का पेपर है उसका हमारा issue है ये. So those kind of discussion I cover in the mains part. I will not cover over here. In fact, you can go to my YouTube channel. In the YouTube channel there is a video on this disinvestment, है ना. So you can go through that video. You will find in more detail how to prepare such kind of issues for the mains purpose. So mains purpose के लिए जो issues होते हैं वो कुछ अलग तरीके से prepare करने होते हैं. So you will get an idea that how to prepare for the mains. ठीक है. So you can go to the YouTube channel and you can watch that. Basically in this particular discussion that I just did, the focus was on factual part, conceptual part. In the mains the focus is upon analytical part, right? Analytical means कि why it should happen, what should not happen, what should be the mechanism, what should be the suggestion, argument for, argument against, है ना. We can do the study from across the country. So all those things are for the mains, not for the prelims.